Welcome everybody. Thank you, Linda, for the invitation. I'm really pleased to be here, and let me introduce guests. Monika ZPB, Monika Morawiecka, Regulatory Assistance Project, Jacek Misiejuk, NLX, and Wojciech Krawczyk, Ministry of Climate. So I'm very pleased to have such knowledgeable guests, panelists, and let's start about energy transition in Poland, energy sector. We are in the situation where Poland basically, we may say that we survived winter in quite a good shape. Last year was really bumpy year in the context of what happened in the energy sector. We experienced huge turmoil on the fossil fuels market. Gas prices were extremely high. We have faced also a coal gap in Poland. As a coal country, we missed about 10 million tons of coal. In fact, the coal production in the power sector has dropped, what was actually not expected, because once the energy crisis started, actually it was 1.5 years ago, but last year we talked a lot about energy prices, about everything what happened on the markets. We experienced huge drop in coal production, so it was not expected. And I'm just wondering, and maybe I will direct my first question to Wojciech Krawczyk, where you think we are in terms of energy transition. Ministry of Climate is working on revision of state energy policy. However, we are a few months before the election, so it's also probably influencing our discussion on energy sector. So, if you could comment where we are, what are the main challenges, what can we expect from energy policy?
Yes, thank you. Such a complex question for the first question, but I'm happy to answer that. Thank you for having me here, first of all. And I agree what you said earlier with the last winter, which we just had. I think the Polish energy sector went through this winter relatively smoothly compared to what could have happened if we didn't prepare well. And yes, there was a gap in terms of coal production in Poland. Hence, we had to import a lot of coal. But thanks to the quality, thanks to the effort of many actors in the Polish energy market, we did it. In terms of where we are in terms of our policy, I think what you said earlier is going to happen. Poland is going to have the updated version of the Polish energy policy. And I think what we project in this document tells you a lot about the energy market and how it's going to play out in the future. Firstly, the short answer would be yes, we will have a lot of new capacity of renewables, and I think that's unprecedented in terms of how much we project the new capacity will come online, especially in terms of offshore wind, onshore wind, but also solar. So that being said, in terms of, I think, this is a very short answer and say, yes, we will build a lot of new capacity, but how will we do that? Because I think that's the main question. And obviously there's a lot of challenges. First of all, finance, where can we get the money from? The money will come from the sector and the private investments and from the market. But that's a huge challenge which I think many people don't see, because do we have time? I'm sorry. How much time do you have?
Until you are done.
Okay. Thank you, because this is a very...
there are some limits.
Right.
I want us to have a vivid discussion, but just feel free to share your thoughts.
Because there are a couple of aspects. First is the revised energy policy, which the government is expected to release very quickly. I think it's going to be within the next 2 weeks. I mentioned where you asked where we are in terms of the energy sector. So I think the huge investments will come. We see around 50 gigawatts of new renewable capacity coming in the next 10 years, which is again a lot. I think what we are missing here in terms of the public discussion is to bring them online, this huge capacity. We also need to ensure all the security and safety indicators to be on the safe side. What I mean is the adequacy and the stability of the power grid. And to do so, we are not just obviously replacing conventional capacity with renewable capacity. We have to make sure that the electricity production and all the indicators are on the safe side. Hence, we will still need conventional capacity in our energy grid. Obviously, the electricity production from those resources will decrease. However, we need to keep them in line just in order to feel safe. I think that this winter was a huge challenge, and the next upcoming winter will also be a huge challenge. But we do have some lessons, and I think we learned as the whole sector. I think there are two factors. One is the weather itself, and the other one is the preparation. So we have no say in terms of the weather. I mean, it's given. We will see what we get. But in terms of preparation, I think we will be able to prepare better in terms of we already have embargo on the Russian coal. We don't import any other fuels from Russia. So I think this preparation period that we have now and the lessons that we have from the previous season will help us to be on the safe side during the next winter and next year. So yes.
Thank you very much. Indeed, a lot is happening. We can see that we successfully cut off Russian fossil fuels. But Monika, I would like to ask you: is what we now those undertakings are enough for Polish energy transition? What do you think is most needed, and is the speed of energy transition also good in terms of challenges which are ahead of us?
Thank you. First of all, I do not know what measures because we haven't seen yet the revised energy policy, so it's hard to judge. But what I'm missing actually is a bit more focus on the household sector and the use of coal in the household sector, because the vast majority of coal that we have to import into this country, and we had imported from Russia, was going to the household sector heating with coal in individual coal boilers, and this is unprecedented around Europe. We know that this is contributing to our really poor air quality in Poland. This is putting people in jeopardy in terms of affordability of their heating. And here, what I'm hearing, not from Mr. Krawczyk, but what I'm hearing sometimes in the discussions in Poland right now is, we have to mine more coal because we don't want to import, obviously. It's better to have, we have our own, so let's invest in mines, and let's import, and let's mine more coal to secure security of supply for the household sector. Instead of saying, okay, so let's really speed out now, phasing out coal from the household sector, so that we don't need this coal there. Because it's really the worst, I think this is the single worst part of our energy picture, if you will. Not the coal plants, but the coal boilers in the individual houses. And being Polish, I'm really ashamed of my country that we have not dealt with it so far. So this is, if there's one piece that I would like more focus on, would be this one. Having said that, it's not all
If
black.
I may add actually one number, because it was quite striking for me that in fact coal production in Poland has fallen 2 million tons year to year. Despite all the mobilization that we want to dig more coal and produce more coal, the production has fallen by 2 million tons.
Yeah, I'd say as it should. I mean, I wouldn't really be worried about falling coal production. I would be worrying about not enough falling in coal demand. This is what I would like to see. So I would like to be more, forceful on the demand side and reducing the demand side, rather than, increasing the supply side. But having said that, it's not all black. Absolutely, I think we have. Actually, last year was big, actually success on this part of the picture. With heat pump growth and the clean air program, which is a program designed to get rid of this coal that I was talking about from the household sector. There was a big success. Poland, year on year, heat pumps grew by 120%, which was the highest growth in Europe. And we are really in an exponential growth in this market, which is really good, because these heat pumps are displacing a lot of this coal from this household sector. And just to be sure, yes, heat pumps are powered by electricity, and yes, this electricity is coming predominantly still from coal, but heat pumps have efficiency of 300%, which makes it really much better in terms of overall efficiency. And of course, they don't emit any substances and do not contribute to poor air quality. So that is positive. The second positive element was growth in solar PV, rooftop solar mostly, which is also contributing to sort of security of supply on the household level. And this I expect to, maybe not as high growth this year, but still growing. And I suspect this is this success in the PV sector contributed a lot to the need to revise the energy policy, because the previous energy policy is now fully outdated in terms of ambition towards PVs in Poland. The other thing I would stress, of course, mixed success here on updating the infamous law on 10H law on blocking wind farms, which was recently updated, not fully to our wishes, our meaning the sort of progressing green community, if I will. So we have a barrier now of 700 meters from houses. Still much better than it was, could be better. My only reservation really about this law was, why did it take a year after the break of the war? Why did we have to wait a year to unblock a law that was stemming growth in wind power, which is contributing again to our security of supply, energy independence? And as Mr. Krawczyk rightly said, we will need capacities, firm capacities, be it coal, be it gas, for some time in the future. But it does not mean that these capacities have to work a lot. They should not. We should be fully going at full speed with renewables, displacing as much generation from the dirty sources as possible. Still having them there for security of supply. I fully agree. A firm capacity is needed. There's no question about that. But they should be producing less and less, and thus we should be mining less and less coal. And I do not really see a problem with that. That we are decreasing our coal mining. So that will be first remarks.
Thank you very much. We see huge challenges and also a lot of investment opportunities. By the way, I see also as a think tank, as Forum Energii, we are approached by many investors from all over the world who want to speak about Poland and the opportunities there. So it seems it is good momentum, but I'm just wondering what is needed, and I will direct my question to Monika. What do you think is needed for investor really to invest money in Poland? What is missing, or what could be improved from the investor point of view?
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. presentation. Thank you for this question. Union of Entrepreneurs and Employers has almost 19,000 members. These are companies like SMEs, but also large companies. And I would say that this needs perspective would be dramatically different depending on which group of companies we talk about. Because those large companies, very often global corporations, they're already aware. They've got the sustainability goals. They've taken a lot of steps. Maybe it will be easier. They've taken a lot of steps in terms of energy efficiency, developing their own renewable sources. So we've got a couple of examples that could be a good benchmark for the market. But at the same time, on the other hand, we've got still large companies which are completely not aware of regulations that are coming, not aware of energy market, and not aware of, in general, what is energy, how they buy it, how they use it. Like, this is actually interesting because we might find not only small companies but also large ones that used to purchase energy but also gas for many years as a yearly routine. In the Scandinavian countries or Western European countries, I think that there is larger awareness about the stock and market itself, and that you should follow the trend and you should plan a strategy for purchasing energy and gas. In Poland, due to some historical conditions, we were used to acquire energy from one year to another, usually around September, when there was a budgeting ongoing. And due to this this situation, for many years, it was only a number that was set in the budget, and there were not much consideration of whether we use this energy actually a lot or not. The price was not changing from one year to another. And then for more than 1.5 years, we've been observing increase of prices, and companies were not aware of that. We could learn in newspapers that the crisis is coming. Sellers, like the trading companies, they obviously were aware, but most of companies, but also state-owned entities, they were waiting for the end of their last contract, and that was the moment to start collecting bids. It made a situation that the prices increased like 10 times, 8 times, and this is the moment when we actually started discussion in Poland that we need to do something about that. I think that for companies that would like to invest in energy efficiency and in general helping to transform, to set the energy transition in those companies, would be first of all leading education in the possibilities that are already in the market, how we can plan the whole picture, reduce the consumption through energy efficiency, but also at the same time to plan properly acquiring of purchasing of energy and gas, because there's a lot of problems that could have been avoided by proper hedging, for example. And on the other, on the last day, it is the government who is coming with the maximum price, which, you know, is a solution that is temporary and was definitely needed to not speed up inflation and actually bankruptcy of many companies. But it also shows that there is someone that will come and help us. I would see more of education, building awareness, and to create environment that companies here could be a good partner for those investors that are coming from abroad.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for mentioning other measures, because we focus here on generation capacities, which are certainly needed in Poland, but in fact the positive side, if we may say so, of energy crisis is that we think differently about energy, because for many years we experienced stable prices, and it was actually investing in energy efficiency was just not bringing any profit. So that's true. And but now we see also a lot of innovations, and I would like to direct my next question to Jacek Misiejuk, who is exactly leading such company which invests in innovative solution, you may say, and it's not so innovative because already we have experiences with DSR, demand-side response, and flexibility of the energy system for many years in Poland. But Jacek, how you see now the market? What from your perspective is most relevant in Poland in the context of energy transition?
Okay, thank you. I fully agree. We have been shaken in last year in the number of crises, and the last one, and especially painful for the industry, was connected to imported fossil fuels and dependency of the fossil fuels, and what may happen if the prices will go up, if the availability will be under question. So we see that the role of the renewables energy sources has been changed significantly. We, especially Polish industry, was seeing this. Okay, this is nice to have future, but it's very expensive. Nowadays, we observe that the maximum auction price are almost half of the market price, maximum auction price for the renewable energy. The half market price of energy in the future. So renewable energy is not only more environmentally friendly, help us with the climate, but also start to be more competitive in case of prices. So there is growing interest in having own production, in having corporate PPA, in having access simply to the cheaper and cleaner energy. However, we still are depending pretty much on coal, and of course this is also our kind of resource which help us to survive, to survive industry in the crisis. But we have to think how to integrate more renewable energy and not to waste it, because what we are observing that to balance the system, we still need about half of conventional energy, and this is very important role for the Polish customers and especially Polish industry to be a part of this process, to help to balance the system and allow also to integrate more renewable energy sources. We have significant challenges from here. We remember 2015 when it was a shortage of the generation because of the various problems with it wasn't so big share of the renewable generation, but there were also the problems with the conventional power plants due to heat wave, due to the cooling problem. So we still are observing that our outdated power plants are not flexible. So, and at the same time, we need about half of the generation coming from the conventional sources, only because they need to provide the electricity or balance the system when there is no wind, no photovoltaic. But there is the way to go, not only because everyone knows that the energy storage is the solution, heat storage is solution, power to gas is solution. All those solutions are, of course, necessary. We have to invest in that. It starts to be also profitable. We need the rules also to make use of them, not only invest to them, but also make use of them more profitable. And there is the cheapest solution for storage of energy, to make the better use of this renewable energy, is to use the industrial customers' flexibility. We are on the Polish market from the start, when it was first introduction of the programs with the capacity payment, which was absolutely the most important to start with the demand flexibility in Poland. And during these 6 years, this market grew to practically 1,000 megawatts. So this is the size of the power plant of Ostrołęka, which didn't finally appear, which was planned for that this year. So this is quite significant. But this is kind of, and we also would like to thank our customer. We have 350 big industrial customers who contribute to that. Most of that capacity was coming from capacity was coming from that. From that, we have one proof in September last year, when we have to deploy all the assets, not only to do the test, regular tests, which we are doing as well. But we need now to develop more demand response program, not only focus on the capacity, the programs which are activated within hours, but there is a growing need, especially if we are having more renewable assets in our energy mix, and also our demands start to be also fluctuating, because we have the more heat pump. It will also increase the changes in that. So all that guide us to have the programs when customers can also introduce some additional flexibility, which will help not only to accommodate the more renewables, but also to deploy less this old-fashioned conventional power plants, which are still necessary, and they will be for some time necessary, but using the customers' flexibility, helping us to build not only more environmentally friendly, but also cheaper energies, cheaper electricity, and more competitive customers. So this is the big challenge. Now we are facing a situation that there will be more and more of renewable energy wasted, because to keep these old power plants online during the peak, we need them also during the off-peak, when there is excess number of electricity. We need to curtail the renewable production. So instead of having cheaper electricity during the period, and that will be more and more such electricity, during the period when we have the excess renewable electricity because of these fossil fuel plants online, we have to buy this more expensive electricity, and also pay the compensation for the renewable power plants which are curtailed. So that's something we have to avoid, and until we will have the much wider and cheaper energy storage option, still there is the big place to develop these services, and help also to Polish customers, especially industrial customers, to make them to be more competitive on the market.
Thank you, Jacek. You mentioned quite important thing which we discussed recently in Poland about the renewables curtailment. And I would like to ask Monika what you think should change in order to avoid that, because still actually curtail renewable energy means actually losing some potential. I mean, renewable energy, once the capacity is there, is producing electricity at the cheapest price. So how to avoid this, how electricity market should change, also in the context of the discussion which we have on the European level on electricity market design.
Thank you. So first of all, I think we are starting to think about the electricity sector differently than we did before. So before there were a few sort of building blocks, big building blocks. So you had big transmission and distribution, you had big power plants, you had customers, and these were your building blocks. Right now we are moving into a world where it's not, you know, a few building blocks, but rather a puzzle made of hundreds of pieces. And these hundreds of pieces have to come together to really integrate renewables and secure electricity supply. And these 100 different pieces are distributed generation, first of all, distributed demand-side response, second of all, which Jacek was mentioning. This is one of your flexibility puzzles. And these flexibility puzzles are the most important, I think. And there are many. It's not just demand, it's not just supply. It is storage, it is interconnectors, and let's not forget about that. Interconnectors are helping Europe in general to deal with the surplus of renewables in one time and lack of it in the other times. It will be in the future power to gas, hydrogen or other gases. But on the flexibility side, I would also add it's not just the industrial customers. I think a big untapped source of flexibility in the system is actually on the household level, and will be more of that. I mentioned before heat pumps. I will talk a bit about electric vehicles. We don't have so many now in Poland, but we see growth, and we are probably like 5 years behind the rest of Europe in terms of where we will be. But we will get there, and your fleet of electric vehicles in the country is essentially batteries on wheels. And bidirectional charging, meaning you will charge your vehicle when the electricity is cheap, and you will give back, or your battery will discharge part of their electricity back to the grid when the electricity is expensive. This is the future. And this actually, in all modeling, shows that this is a big chunk of this flexibility that we need, and a big chunk of the storage that we need. And actually, coming back to this losing of electricity from renewables, I personally think, and it also, many studies show that curtailment, as much as we don't like it, is also one piece of the puzzle, actually. It is. I mean, if you imagine, in Poland, let's assume we have rounding numbers. Let's assume we have 30 gigawatts of peak demand, the most peak demand that we have in a given year is 30 gigawatts. So if we build more than 30 gigawatts, and we will very shortly, renewables, and we will have, you know, days, and we already have days when it is windy and there is a lot of solar at the same time. So you can easily imagine that you will have a day where your peak generation from wind and solar will be bigger than your own demand in the country. And there is really not much to do about it, except for some storage, but also not at this scale, than to curtail some of this electricity. And some of this electricity will be curtailed, and this is one of the building blocks that were one of the puzzles as well. And in some cases, it will be the cheapest option. And maybe if it's, let's say, 5% of the hours in a year where you have to curtail your wind plant, what does it really mean? That means that that the cost of the wind power is 5% more expensive. So let's say, you know, the LCOE of a wind farm is, give or take, 50 euro per megawatt hour. It will be 55. Or 52.5 rather. that's not the end of the world. That's not
Is it
really
an
expensive.
opportunity for green hydrogen or storage?
Yes, in the future, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm saying storage will be very important. Green hydrogen will be very important, but for green hydrogen, with all due respect, we will have to have much more electricity than green electricity than we have now. It would be a waste now to be putting green electricity into green hydrogen right now in Poland. We have, what, 20% green electricity. So there is much more to do by electricity alone before we move into green hydrogen. So I'm saying, yes, you will need storage, you will need demand-side response, you will need flexible capacities, you will need interconnectors, you will need hydrogen, you also will need some curtailment, and it's not the end of the world, and we should be open about it. It's one of the tools in the broad range of tools that we have to use, and we just have to optimize and use the cheapest first. And of course, if we don't have more flexibility on the supply side, and Jacek was talking about that, and this is really bad in terms of our generation fleet right now and the technical minimums that these plants have to run at. This is causing more curtailment, or will be causing more curtailment that is optimal economically. So this is bad, and we should not allow it. And of course now there's a whole discussion about what to do with it. The previous answer to it, transitional gas capacities, and I still think some transitional gas capacities are needed, especially the peaking plants, because they will be the ones that allow for this, these capacities to go down really quickly, ramp up and down really quickly, and integrate renewables without losing this electricity. So there's a whole range. There is somewhere down the line there is an optimal solution or optimal puzzle, if you will. We are far from it now. On the market side, you asked about market side, and there's a whole other discussion as well. Our market is not prepared for that, but it might be soon in the future. The electricity market design reform talks about peak shaving products, talks about flexibility offers or flexibility mechanisms that should be introduced by different member states. Hopefully, these new instruments out there will be introduced without much delay, without much procedural delays like state aid, approvals and things like that. These takes a lot of time in Europe normally. So yes, we are moving into that direction.
Monika, I would like to jump in, and I love it because it's self-moderating panel, which I really like.
Thank you. I totally agree with Monika and Jacek, and to make it happen, like the whole puzzle picture fit, we need also legislation, regulations that follow. Because there are a lot of companies, investors that are already interested in a lot of solutions that might work on the flexibility side, or might develop hybrid generation energy sources. But unfortunately, we have this special pens in Poland for this regulations. Monika mentioned 10H rule. We've got also a cable pulling regulation that is waiting for 2 years in freezer. And the main problem today, and in general, in thinking about transition processes in Poland, I think is that for many years, energy sector, energy security was perceived as a strategic, which is obvious, but it was also centered, managed centrally. And I think that today what we need is bigger trust in the market and bigger trust in the companies itself, that they can actually support this process and facilitate, speed it up. It is visible in the photovoltaic sector with over last 3-4 years, we've got a large increase of those installations. And also, we should give the opportunity to act to companies. And I think that a good example was shown yesterday. We had a conference touching similar topics. That if I'm a private consumer and I've got electricity connection at my house, nobody asks me whether I've got I've got 4 hoovers, 10 TV spots, or how much of the energy consuming facilities I've got at my house. The importance is that I should not take more electricity than it is signed in my contract. And this is something that today companies, especially large companies in Poland, can have. Because having a connection of, for example, 100 kilowatts, they may not develop their own infrastructure like storages, like renewables, without agreement, without authorization from the transition distribution company, which stops all of these investments, and we are waiting for regulations.
Thank you very much. Wojciech would also like to follow up, yes?
Yes, thank you.
And I will have also additional question.
Right.
By the way.
So let me refer first. I think many points which we just mentioned are extremely important, and but I would like to refer to what Monika has just said earlier, and she gave the right example of, like, let's say we have 30 gigawatts of capacity that we actually need for the peak hours. It's more or less right. But in the future, we're talking about not a couple of extra gigawatts, we're talking about 100 gigawatts excess. So let's say 120, 130 gigawatts installed capacity, mainly from the renewables. Obviously, we have to take into consideration the capacity factor, load factor, and so on. But we will have an extreme amount of energy that we have to integrate into the grid. This is one thing. And the second thing, we are talking about not gigawatt hours, we are talking about terawatt hours, which we will have to somehow transfer to other sectors. This is one thing. So for example, as you mentioned, hydrogen production will be one thing. The other thing is something that we wanted to reflect in the updated scenario in our energy policy, which is the increased demand for electricity coming from the heat pumps, for example, not only, but this is one thing, and there is also a program, We Plant My Electricity, which will be extended, and there will be also energy storage included in the program. So I think it will also help to manage the, let's say, on the last level of the consumer, how we can accommodate the electricity produced in the households coming from the solar. And I think what is extremely important, that the idea of having this excess of electricity and something that we want to flag and want to point out in the document is that as of now, there is a threat of losing this electricity, but this is a potential, and this is an opportunity, as you mentioned, to use it in the future and maybe electrify some other sectors. So this is, of course, it can be tricky, because if somebody looks at it from the outside perspective, might say, okay, let's not build as much renewables as we are planning to, or the market is planning to do so. But I think the opportunity is bigger than the threat. So that being said, I think it also reflects what Monika said earlier. And I want to put on this thing.
Indeed, I think we should think about energy transition as an opportunity, not as a threat. However, still, what I'm missing a little bit is this realistic approach to or really seeing the mega trends and market fundamentals. I was moved recently with some prognosis from the old energy policy from 2009, where the potential for photovoltaics in 2020 was estimated at the level of 70 megawatts. And now we have 12 gigawatts of capacity installed, and the challenge is that what is now developing in Poland for many years is renewables, but we are still underestimating this potential, and then our system is not prepared, is having troubles with tackling the flexibility, with grids also. We didn't talk here about the grids, but this is actually this entire ecosystem which is needed for energy transition. And I'm just wondering, Wojciech, very, very briefly, if you could comment, maybe we should change a little bit our thinking about energy security and security of supply, because in the past it was mainly associated with coal. Now we know it's not valid anymore, and we probably need more renewables, or not probably, in order to lower actually the share of fossil fuels, because we are facing troubles with gas, with coal. Poland wanted transition away from coal to gas. Now it is also not possible anymore. So shouldn't we really say that the top priority should be renewables with option maybe some gas, of course coal, and maybe nuclear, but this is for later, and now we are facing troubles in 2025, 26, and next few years to come. Just if you could briefly comment on it.
Yes, I totally agree. I think what we were missing, and it's a very simple lesson. Energy security is given or ensured only by diversification. And I think there is I'm not a big fan of quotes, but there is a quote, energy security lies in variety and variety alone. So that being said, I think renewables is one thing. So this is always a combination of things. So, and we already mentioned many opportunities and how we can ensure the security. And I agree, it's not only coal, it's not only gas, it's not only renewables as of now, maybe in the future, but definitely yes, this is a combination of things. If that answers your question.
Thank you. Monika.
Yeah, on the diversification, I think it's a good point, and just to mention one reason that we have to remember, one reason of the last year's energy crisis, and maybe this year's too, was not just Russian meddling with the gas supply, but it was huge problems in the nuclear production in France. So one single country and single fleet of nuclear plants were not performing up to their normal standards, where actually half of them were offline for the most part of the year. And this was the huge lack of electricity in Europe, which drove up prices very much. So it was about, I think, 160 terawatt hours less electricity produced by these plants, and that contributed a lot to the problems that we have. France moved from being a net electricity exporter to a net electricity importer for the first time in I don't know how many years, like 30 years or something. So, and then that's diversification. They have 70% of their needs normally supplied by nuclear, by one type of source, and then there's part of it one type of reactors actually. This is a whole new discussion about fleet of reactors. We're moving into another possibility, which is many different designs in our nuclear program or plans in this country, so which has another problems, of course. But this is a diversification in practice, right? So just this one.
Jacek would like to add something, but I have a question if there are questions, because I don't see on Slido any questions. So there are two questions, okay? So Jacek first, comment, and then we'll pick up the questions.
Thank you. So I think France is a very good example of this, what may happen in the future in Poland, because France has a lot of electricity heating. They used to have the cheap, available all-time electricity, but they face the problem that a lot of their electricity consumption is depending from the temperature. We are having a wave of installation of the heat pumps, and that also will create some additional flexibility. What's the solution which was in France? I have mentioned the flexibility which we have developing in Poland. That's the capacity market. That's still a very attractive option for industrial customer who may have up to 1 million zloty for 4 years contract for 1 megawatts. So that's quite significant. This is more than on the capacity market in the other countries. But also the rules are a bit more strict, and we make them much more feasible for the industrial customers, and that's the reason of our success. But the intervention program, like the capacity market, like the flexibility, are only the one part. The other part is the rules on the market which allow customers to act on the market, to react on the prices. Customers doesn't want to observe every day the electricity prices, but in case there are very high prices caused by the lack of the capacity, customers should have, according to the directives which are still not implemented in Poland and in many European countries, they should the right to sell the excess electricity and to use their flexibility to lower the bill and additionally to help the system to maintain the stability. So this is something which we need, and France is a good example how this was implemented. So they have a range of the intervention program, the flexibility, fast flexibility, capacity market, but they have also allow customers to act in case the electricity is cheaper. So this kind of demand-side services are developing in other countries, and I hope also in Poland soon we will allow the customers to act, even independent from the main electricity supply, because most of the customers would like to have the stable 1, 2, 3 years contract to survive these shocks like we have this year. Once those customers who have these longer-term contracts were protected to some extent against the very high prices, but they should have also the right to act on the market, and that's something which is very important in the energy market directives. It's something which is not fully, I think, understood by our legislators. And that's why we have still not such possibility to help our customer to lower their bill and to help the system.
Thank you very much. There were 2 questions in the back. I don't know if we have Mike there. Who would like to ask the question first? Please. If you could introduce yourself very briefly.
Robert Adamczyk. Just 2 questions which I'd like to ask. First of all, we look at scope 3 emissions which have to be disclosed, and therefore there will be a market push. Poland being high carbon will mean the Polish industry will be not very competitive in the supply chain assessments for many European companies. So the need to change is huge. However, if you look at the nuclear strategy, is that the solution? I'd like to ask that, because the question is here, Poland has chosen American design. Westinghouse has had a history, not a very colourful one. There hasn't been a public procurement approach. Is that needed? And what is the reaction of the French EDF, who sells requirements? And then we look at 2 other things. 40% of uranium comes from Russia, so are we going from one side to the next in terms of supply? And the ship just arrived in France, I think last week, with uranium from Russia. And then you have the time to build a nuclear power station There hasn't been one in Western Europe or North America that's been built on time and on budget. And if we look at the time and the budget, the Polish side is looking 36, so it's around 1.5 gigawatts for 5 billion, which is probably going to be 10 by 2040. And that might be optimistic. What is your view of that? Is that something that we're getting being sold, a nuclear reactor that will not be really operational for another nearly 20 years?
Thank you very much. A very valid question. There was, let's pick up all the questions first. I saw somebody raising hands in the back.
Do you want to respond to that first, because I've got separate questions?
No, just ask your question and then we'll collectively respond to it.
Hi, Adrian Lowe, S&P Global. I've got a comment and a question, if I may. So, first comment about household consumption of coal. Fully agree with Monika. If I can tell a very quick anecdote. I have a house in the south of Poland, near Zwaron. And it's great because down there you see many people that have solar panels on the roofs. But probably it's the only place on earth I've ever seen where people have solar panels on the roof and they're burning coal, right? So something has to be done to change the incentives where, you're not only providing tax incentives for people to put solar panels on their roofs, but you're also implementing policy changes that ensure that people aren't burning coal, otherwise you just do half a job, And then my question actually is more sort of macro. So today we've heard some very interesting topics about securing energy supply, which is a very important topic for today. I think the topic for tomorrow that I'd love to hear about is not necessarily about securing energy supply, but if we think about the transition and how we're going to move towards renewables, how do we secure the components and the raw materials that go into things like solar panels? Because we all know that the huge supply of those components and raw materials, a lot of it's coming from China. And if we think about geopolitical environment right now and the world we're moving into, today people are weaponizing the supply of energy. I think tomorrow people will be weaponizing the supply of those raw materials.
Thank you very much. Very important question. Who would like to respond?
I could start, but then obviously. First of all, thank you very much for the question about competitiveness of our industry, because this is actually one of the big big reasons why we need to transform our electricity, which is often overlooked, like totally overlooked by decision makers. Historically and still up to now, I think the mantra among decision makers is, oh, we have to transform because the European Union, rules demand that of us. We have targets, we have CO2 trading, ETS and so forth, so we need to do it because this bad EU wants us to. And then this other aspect of the world really moving into that direction and the supply chains being greener and greener and the big industrials and not only big customers of our exporting industry are requiring greener and greener products. This is totally overlooked, and I'm always saying that to our politicians. Look, 50% of our GDP is exports, and we are putting this into jeopardy if we are not transforming our electricity market. So fully agree, and this is one of the biggest reasons why we should speed up very much, because we will be losing out, and this will be a big problem for the competitiveness of the country, and the whole success that we had in the recent 20 years could be, much less so in the future. So, and the questions about the nuclear, I will let Wojciech, but just quickly maybe to the other question about the raw materials, I would just point out that there's this. That's probably a bigger, wider question of deglobalization and like reshoring of generally reshoring of many industries that were outshored in previous years. European Commission and European Union as a whole is recognizing this and has put forward recently this Net Zero Industry Act that might help. Of course, there's this sort of balance to strike, and you will have, and I suspect you will have many industries protesting against that, because what will happen really in some part of this once you reshore some of these components production, they will be more expensive simply. So you will have more expensive electricity in the end if you put solar panels production back to Europe, that we lost all of it, like 98% is now in China or something like that. They probably will be more expensive, so we have to concede that, we have to deal with that, and of course security of supply of components and raw materials is important, and we'll have to pay for it. Depending on the global competitiveness of European economy, then we'll have to see. I don't personally think it's a big problem, maybe, because European innovativeness may be overcoming these problems. So maybe that's not a problem. But we have to just see this, that it's not just, oh, okay, so let's now produce everything in house and we'll be fine. There are trade-offs to be made. And on raw materials, I think this is my long-term conviction in all mining sector is like, it never ends. So when there is demand, supply will come. We've recently heard of, I think, was it Sweden that reported big deposits of some rare earth materials. So we might even get some more mining in Europe. So I don't think it is a big problem. And one last comment, very quickly, even if we still are dependent on supply of components, this is less of a problem than a dependence on fuel supplies. This is totally different animal. Maybe I'm not going to deal with it, but it is different.
Thank you very much. As we are running out of time, Wojciech, if you could be brief.
Very quickly. So regarding the global competitiveness, I would like to change this paradigm that we don't think about the transition as an opportunity to be more competitive and in the future have cheaper prices of electricity, which we know affect the whole competitiveness of the whole economy of the country. So I hope it's changing and we don't think about this anymore as something that we have to do, but something that we get to do to be more competitive. So I think that is changing or has been changing lately. Although I'm sorry if this wasn't the case in the past. Regarding the nuclear, I wouldn't underestimate the opportunity to be diversified. So if this comes with a cost, I think this is also we will benefit if we have a diversified mix and we have a reliable mix, and we can always be sure that the adequacy and the capacity will be there for our customers and customers. I think there's also a discussion about the competitiveness. I think there is also a discussion about the market design and who is going to carry the burden of the high prices, if there are, because we know that, for example, in Germany there is a different strategy to this. The industrial customers, they pay less than the individual customers. But this is another discussion about the market design and how it should be. Regarding the heat pumps, I think this is a great observation. And I hope the My Electricity program will help to kind of get rid of this dual situation where we have solar panels and they're still burning coal in their houses because of the storage, because of the growth in heat pumps. Raw materials, I agree with Monika. If we have to be dependent on something, I think the components is a little bit better than the fossil fuels, and also having this mixed and wide portfolio with different renewables will help us to be a little bit less dependent on specific materials, and having this opportunity to build nuclear, build renewables, keep a little bit of biomass and so on will help us to kind of help with the situation.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We are 6 minutes over time. But I really hope it was a constructive discussion for you. For me, it was really good, informative, and comprehensive. So thank you very much, and I think there will be time to discuss in lobby or around. Thank you.